you noted how the celibacy of the priesthood is ancient and apostolic. I think that's a really important point that you made there. A very important one that people have got to realize. Now, when you say ancient and apostolic, were any of the apostles perhaps? Well, we know, number one, let's get to the heart of the issue. We know there were priests. That is no doubt. We know there were priests through sacred tradition shows us, and the Bible shows us as well. There were priesthood that we're told, and even St. Paul notes that very clearly. But the apostles, this is apostolic. So this is biblical at the heart and at the core of it. This is biblical, isn't it, Father?
It is. It is. Now, you're not going to find anywhere in the Bible Jesus saying, I command that all priests be celibate, because as a matter of fact, not all priests have ever been celibate. There have been married priests from the very beginning that we know that some of the apostles, we don't know if their wives are still alive and if they continue to live their marriage rites and so forth. We don't know that. But we know that, and even today we have Latin rite priests who are Anglicans or, Orthodox, and sometimes they are able to, if they're married, they're able to remain married. So there's not a connection in that sense that is just hard and fast. And yet what we see in the early church, and more the scholarship is showing this, is that even very early on, there were gatherings of bishops and synods and so forth that speak about celibacy as something that is already presumed and very ancient. And it's either celibacy, or in some cases, it would be marital continence. That is to say, married men could be ordained to the priesthood, but they would agree to live without marriage rights, without having sexual relations with their wives. One of the reasons why the wives had to agree if a man became a priest. So in other words, you had this kind of in-between period where, and it's not consistent, but already in the early 300s, there's a synod in Spain where they talk about celibacy as something that's been around forever. They talk about it like it's just a natural thing. We know certainly St. Paul, like you said, was celibate, and he encouraged celibacy on others. The tradition is that St. John was celibate, and perhaps many of the other apostles. There's a very strong sense that, and when the Orthodox Church departed from that apostolic norm, the 7th century in the Council of Trullo, that it was something that they started to put all these conditions, we could have some married clergy, but only the parish clergy, not bishops, and you couldn't get married after ordination, and all these different conditions, suggesting that, of course, this is something that's been around, and they're changing their approach to it, which, it's, I don't make a comment on that. I just sort of comment on it in as much as it shows that it's something that goes way before, and that's 600s. Because people will sometimes, the New York Times or the Washington Post version of celibacy is, the standard line is that the church invented celibacy in the 11th century. And that this was something that was imposed. And the reason is given for different reasons, sometimes to protect the patrimony of the church, to save money, basically, so we don't have to pay for wives and kids, or, because just the practicality of the thing, or whatever, all these different reasons it might be given. But the irony of that, the Second Lateran Council that they're talking about, was precisely one of those attempts by the church to rein in abuses of celibacy. It's precisely pointing to the ancient quality of celibacy and the fact that there are so many priests who are not living it well, that they call that part of the reason that the council put out all those norms about living celibacy in the 11th century, and it happened before and after, is in order to help priests live celibacy and to ensure that priests are living celibacy more faithfully. And that's where we are today. We have, I think most priests are living their celibacy very beautifully, but there are many, as we know, in recent decades where that has not happened. And so the church has had to, and I hope continues to, be very strong on forming men and selecting men better, forming men better, and then ensuring that those who are not living their celibacy in a faithful way, if they're hurting other people, are no longer priests, or no longer active priests.